Time is one of the most misunderstood elements of human life. We often think of it as a wall, something that stops us from reaching our dreams. But in truth, it is a river always moving, always flowing, whether or not we act. The statement, "Never give up on a dream just because of the time it will take to accomplish it. The time will pass anyway," reminds us that fear of time is an illusion. If we choose not to pursue a dream because it may take 5, 10, or 20 years, those years will still go by. At the end of that period, the real question will be, did you use those years to build something meaningful, or did you let them vanish while doing nothing? This principle has been proven over and over again by great thinkers, leaders, and visionaries who dedicated decades of their lives to ideas that reshape the world. The challenge for most people is not the size of the dream itself, but the patience it demands. We live in an age that celebrates speed, fast results, immediate gratification, instant success stories. Yet history shows us that the deepest achievements were rarely instant. They were the fruit of persistence, long nights of study, painful rejections, and the courage to keep working in the shadows until the light of accomplishment finally broke through. If you think about it, every great cathedral that still stands in Europe today was not built in a few months or even a few years. Some took centuries, with the original builders never living to see the completed masterpiece. But they built anyway, believing that the effort would matter beyond their own lifetime. That same mindset is required for anyone determined to fulfill a dream. Consider the life of Thomas Aquinas, one of the most profound thinkers of the Middle Ages. His contribution to philosophy and theology did not come in a flash of inspiration or overnight fame. It was the result of years of patient dedication, endless study, and resilience in the face of misunderstanding and criticism. Aquinas was born in 1225, at a time when the intellectual world was divided. On one side were the Christians who built their worldview upon faith and scripture. On the other side was the rediscovery of Aristotle, whose logical, rational approach to knowledge challenged the religious doctrines of the day. For many, the two seemed incompatible. To bridge the gap between Aristotelian logic and Christian doctrine seemed impossible, even dangerous. Yet Thomas Aquinas dared to attempt it. From his youth, he was not the celebrated scholar we know today. In fact, he faced ridicule. His fellow students at the University of Paris mocked him, calling him the dumb ox because of his quiet, heavy-set nature and his slow manner of speaking. Imagine the pain of being dismissed by your peers when you know deep inside that you carry a vision the world has yet to understand. Most people would have given up, silenced by the jeers and the doubts of others. But Aquinas persisted. He knew that truth required patience. He kept studying, thinking, and writing, even when people failed to recognize his brilliance. He was not afraid of the years it would take, nor of the loneliness that often comes with holding on to a vision others cannot yet see. His perseverance led him to write the Summa Theologica, a monumental work that synthesized Aristotelian philosophy with Christian theology. It was not a project of days or weeks, but of a lifetime. The sheer magnitude of his writings proves that he did not allow time to discourage him. He understood that if it took him decades, then decades it would be. What mattered was not the speed, but the depth, not the applause, but the integrity of the work itself. Aquinas teaches us that greatness requires endurance. If he had abandoned his effort halfway, believing it would take too long, the entire Western intellectual tradition might have been very different. He left a legacy that still influences philosophy, theology, and education today. His example speaks directly to us. Too often, people abandon their dreams because they look at the calendar and think, it will take too long. I'll be too old by then. But Aquinas shows us that the passing of time is irrelevant if the dream itself is timeless. Whether it takes 5 years to write a book, 10 years to build a business, or 20 years to master a skill, those years will pass. If you quit, the years still move forward, but you will have nothing to show for them. If you persist, the years will still pass, but you will hold in your hands the fruit of your labor. The only difference is the choice you make today. Think of how many dreams die, not because they are impossible, but because people convince themselves they don't have the time. They imagine the mountain is too tall, forgetting that every step forward shortens the distance to the peak. Aquinas did not become a master thinker overnight. He climbed patiently, step by step, year after year. His story reminds us that dreams are not meant to be rushed. They are meant to be built. And building takes time. The willingness to accept the slow pace of growth is what separates those who leave a mark on the world from those who remain trapped. In regret, so the question is not whether you have the time. The real question is, will you use the time? 5 years from now, you could be exactly where you are, with nothing changed. Or you could look back and see how far you've come, because you started today. 10 years from now, you might be wishing you had begun, or you could be living in the reality of the dream you refuse to give up on. Aquinas did not waste his years on hesitation. He invested them in his vision. That is the lesson. Time will pass anyway. Let it pass in service of something worthy. Dreams test us by demanding faith in the unseen. When you start a journey, you often cannot see the destination clearly. You may have an image in your mind, but the path ahead is foggy. The people around you may doubt, question, or even mock your ambitions. But persistence requires believing in the value of your dream, even when its fulfillment lies far beyond the horizon. This belief is what sustained Thomas Aquinas. He was not blind to the difficulties of his time. He lived during an age of political turmoil, religious conflict, and intellectual resistance. Yet he dared to push forward, guided by the conviction that truth could be found by harmonizing faith and reason. Imagine being told that the dream burning in your heart is incompatible with reality. Many religious leaders of Aquinas' time believed that Aristotle's philosophy was a threat to Christian doctrine. They feared that reason would undermine faith. To propose combining the two was seen as reckless. Yet Aquinas believed otherwise. He saw no contradiction between faith and reason, but rather a deeper unity. This vision required extraordinary courage because it went against the dominant attitudes of the time. But Aquinas was not deterred. He understood that pioneering work often takes longer precisely because it requires breaking old barriers and reshaping old ideas. The slow nature of such progress can be frustrating. Many of us want visible results right away. We want recognition, success, or validation quickly, and when it does not arrive, we become discouraged. But Aquinas teaches us that waiting is part of the process. His writings were not immediately celebrated by all. In fact, they faced criticism and suspicion, but he continued. He refused to abandon his work because he understood that truth unfolds slowly, like a seed that requires seasons of growth before bearing fruit. This patience is the heart of the message. Never give up on a dream simply because of the time it will take. The time will pass whether you sow the seed or not, but only those who plant the seed will see the harvest. Think about your own life. How many times have you hesitated to begin something important because it seemed like it would take too long? Maybe you considered returning to school, learning a new language, writing a book, or mastering an art form. Perhaps you wanted to start a business or improve your health. You may have looked at the calendar and said to yourself, it will take years. I don't have that kind of time. Yet during those years, you still lived, worked, and passed the days. Imagine what you could have achieved if you had started anyway. Every expert was once a beginner. Every masterpiece was once a blank page. Every great thinker, like Aquinas, once struggled with uncertainty before slowly building mastery. Danger of surrendering the time is regret. Regret is the voice that whispers, if only I had begun earlier. But the truth is, it is never too late to start. The time will pass anyway. Whether you are 20 or 60, today can be the day you take the first step. Aquinas did not stop because the task was immense. He embraced the immensity and let the years shape his work. His life shows us that the value of a dream is not measured by how fast it is completed, but by how deeply it changes the world. We often overestimate what we can do in a short time and underestimate what we can achieve in a decade. People expect instant results in a month, and when they don't see progress, they give up. But 10 years of steady effort can produce miracles. Aquinas' writings, built over decades, remain influential even centuries later. His example is proof that slow progress is still progress. He did not measure his work by immediate applause, but by the depth of truth he uncovered. Likewise, your dream may not bring instant recognition, but if you persist, its impact may last far longer than you can imagine. It is important to understand that time is not an enemy but a partner. Time allows you to refine your skills, to gain wisdom, and to build endurance. If everything came instantly, you would lack the depth and resilience required to sustain success. Aquinas' journey demonstrates this beautifully. His years of study, debate, and writing were not wasted. They were the very foundation of his enduring influence. The time he invested gave his work strength. If he had rushed, the synthesis he achieved might not have been as profound. Dreams need time to mature, just as wine needs years to develop its richness. Another lesson from Aquinas' life is the importance of inner strength. He was not swayed by ridicule or impatience. His nickname, the dumb ox, could have crushed his spirit. Instead, he turned it into motivation. His mentor, Albertus Magnus, famously defended him by saying, "This dumb ox will bellow so loud that his bellowing will fill the world." That prophecy came true because Aquinas refused to give up. Imagine if he had believed the voices that mocked him. Imagine if he had abandoned his vision because it was taking too long to be recognized. The world would have lost a mind that shaped. Centuries of thought. Your own dream may face similar resistance. People may not understand what you are trying to do. They may call you unrealistic, slow, or foolish. They may laugh at your persistence. But their voices are not the measure of your worth. The true measure is whether you keep going despite them. Like Aquinas, you must trust that in time, your efforts will speak for themselves. The ridicule will fade, but the work will remain. Time will vindicate persistence far more powerfully than instant applause ever could. Remember this, every day you delay is a day you could have been building. The clock is ticking regardless. Do not let it tick away in hesitation. Begin now, and let time become the servant of your dream, not the excuse for abandoning it. If Aquinas had waited for perfect conditions or for immediate acceptance, he would never have begun. He started anyway, and that is why his work endures. The fear of time is rooted in our impatience. We often confuse speed with progress, forgetting that slow, consistent effort often surpasses rushed attempts. This truth is not only philosophical but practical. Whether you are climbing a mountain, learning a craft, or building a legacy, the steady pace always triumphs. Thomas Aquinas embodies this principle. His achievement was not the result of haste, but of persistence, careful thought, and lifelong dedication. He proved that the years are not something to fear, but something to embrace. For within them lies the opportunity to create something that transcends the limits of a single lifetime. When Aquinas began his great synthesis, he was not driven by a desire for instant recognition. He was driven by conviction, by the belief that reconciling reason and faith was possible and necessary. That conviction gave him the patience to endure years of study, teaching, and writing. His legacy was not built in sudden flashes of brilliance, but in a daily commitment to his vision. This is a powerful lesson for us today. Too often, we are paralyzed by the thought that our dream will take too long. But Aquinas reminds us that time is not a barrier. It is the canvas upon which greatness is painted. Think of your own dream. Perhaps it is to start a career that feels more meaningful, to write a book that tells your story, to build a business that serves others, or to develop a skill that brings you joy. At first glance, the road may appear endless. But if you begin today, each day becomes a brick in the foundation of your future. Even if it takes 10 years, those years will pass anyway. 10 years from now, Would you rather look back and see a life of hesitation or a life of progress? The choice is always in your hands. What makes this perspective so powerful is that it frees you from the fear of aging or delay. Aquinas did not see his years of study as wasted time. Each year deepened his knowledge and sharpened his understanding. By the time he produced his most important works, he carried within him the wisdom of decades. In the same way, your dream may require years of preparation, but those years are not wasted. They are the very substance of the achievement. Every day you commit to the process, you are becoming the person capable of fulfilling the dream. The time it takes is not a burden but a gift, for it transforms you along the way. The truth is, dreams are rarely about the destination alone. They are about the journey, the growth, and the transformation that happens as you pursue them. Aquinas' journey was as significant as his final writings. The countless hours he spent wrestling with ideas, engaging in debates, and refining his arguments were all part of his transformation into one of history's greatest thinkers. If he had sought shortcuts, his work would not have carried the same weight. Likewise, your dream will shape you as much as you shape it. The years it requires are the years in which you become stronger, wiser, and more capable. There is also another dimension to this truth. When you refuse to give up on a dream, you are not only shaping your own life, but also influencing future generations. Aquinas did not live to see the full impact of his work. He could not have known how many universities, thinkers, and leaders would study his writings centuries after his death. Yet his persistence ensured that his voice would echo far beyond his lifetime. Your dream, too, may reach further than you imagine. The time you invest now could create a legacy that blesses others long after you are gone. That is the beauty of refusing to surrender to time. You plant seeds whose fruit may nourish lives you will never meet. So how do we apply this lesson today? Begin by changing your relationship with time. Instead of seeing it as a prison, see it as a partner. Instead of saying, "It will take too long," say, "The years will pass, and I will use them well." Commit to the process, no matter how slow it seems. Take small, consistent steps every day. Trust that the accumulation of effort, like drops of water wearing down stone, will create results beyond what you can currently see. Just as Aquinas' countless pages of writing eventually became monumental works, your consistent effort will build something meaningful. Also, guard yourself against the temptation of comparison. Do not measure your progress against the speed of others. Some may appear to achieve quickly, but their journey is not yours. Aquinas did not rush to meet the expectations of his critics. He stayed true to his path, and in time, his work outlasted theirs. Focus on your dream and let time shape it in its own way. Remember, the oak tree takes far longer to grow than the flower, but its strength endures for centuries. Finally, let the life of Thomas Aquinas remind you of one simple but profound truth. Persistence triumphs over time. He could have given up when mocked. He could have surrendered when criticized. He could have abandoned his vision when it demanded years of labor. But he did not. He embraced the time, trusted the process, and left a legacy that continues to inspire. His story is a living example of the wisdom. Never give up on a dream just because of the time it will take to accomplish it. The time will pass anyway, so do not wait. Begin today. Whatever your dream is, no matter how long it may take the first step. Embrace the journey. Allow time to refine you, not discourage you. One day, you will look back, not with regret, at years wasted, but with gratitude for years invested. And perhaps, like Thomas Aquinas, your persistence will echo far beyond your own lifetime, leaving a mark on the world that proves time is never the enemy of a dream, it is silent companion.